As we get started, good afternoon to everyone. Let me start my session with a few questions so that it warms up me as well as you. So I want to ask you, we are in the Decoding DevOps conference. Can someone point out or answer who is the father of DevOps? No prizes, but if you know, please. It's Patrick DeBois, who is the father of DevOps. And you know when this particular word called DevOps was coined? Anyone? Fantastic. Where? Super. It's an important thing that we are into this decoding DevOps. I believe within this 1.5 day, we were successful in decoding the DevOps, and we were able to understand what actually the DevOps from the experiences of all the industry leaders around. Yes or no? Bigger is? Louder is? Okay, how many of you still not able to decode the DevOps? Please raise the hands. Otherwise, I'll assume that you have already decoded the DevOps. Not a binary answer. Decoding. Okay. Let me phrase that question properly. How many of you successfully decoding DevOps? Done. Excellent. At least one hand positively. So let me start this particular session. Our session is more on the DevOps, a path for enterprises to adopt, patterns which are driving the cultural change. So this is one of the first sessions in the soft skill areas of the DevOps area, where you try to understand about the different cultural patterns and the change what we are going to see.
So, Bala, we understand the decoding of DevOps and everything, but we need more information on what is the analogy working behind the DevOps implementation. So you please start from there.
So this is a kind of a dialogue we are trying to do so that you understand. Your questions are getting preempted by Ambily to me. So let me start out explaining some of the analogy, very much familiar analogy of onion analogy, where we normally take any kind of a concept to be explained or any kind of a problem to be explained. An onion analogy always helps. Now let's consider DevOps being onion being a DevOps world. Now it primarily encompasses the outer layer, encompasses the philosophy. DevOps is nothing but a philosophy which has got concepts, beliefs, principles that are providing a guiding factor for the agility into the IT management. Now, when you are trying to talk about the philosophy, it's not trying to teach you anything more than the culture. It's trying to help you and embrace what kind of culture you need to bring into the organization. When you try to peel this onion into the concentric layers, you get more into the fundamental levels of aspects, and you see underlying the philosophy, there are various methodologies which are getting supported. This methodologies, like you can talk about Agile, which has got the different approaches like Scrum and Kanban and other things, and the extreme programming, which is helping you to drive those things and achieve the objective. The aspect is like, once these methodologies are available, you need to apply certain practices to embrace these methodologies. These practices are nothing but the kind of a discipline you are trying to take it into the organizations and drive it forward. Within the DevOps world, what you're trying to see today is one of the continuous delivery as one of the discipline you're trying to bring in as a practice. Now, this is not sufficient. When you're getting into the inner world of the onion, you try to see there are a lot of tools. It does nothing to say that DevOps tools are coming here, but more about the tools which can embrace these particular practices. There is nothing like DevOps tools. Please don't get that wrong. But this is a way you try to understand the DevOps as a concept where tools support practices, practices support methodologies, and methodologies embrace the philosophy to achieve. There is a degree of separation and concern available here. One need to understand and respect that. Having said that, I'm introducing you to today's agenda, which is about the DevOps culture. We're going to understand what is the DevOps culture and the path, how you take for each enterprise to adopt this particular culture going forward. And what are the driving patterns which can embrace and change the culture within the organizations we'll also try to see. At the end, we have a small demo which we have prepared just to provide you the guiding factor, how you can see this continuous integration to the continuous delivery. So there are plethora of definitions you have seen in the last 1.5 days. Here is one more definition for you. It is a practice of operations and development engineers participating together in the entire service lifecycle from design through the development, process to the production support. That's what one of the definition, which is primarily driving the factor of a speed of deployment, agility within the organizations, and how fast you can make the business outcomes reaching to the customers. Now, what is a culture has to do with this in the context of the DevOps? How many of you feel that you understand your organization culture very well? Okay, I have one hand there. Can you tell me what kind of organizational culture you see? Happy being one of the culture. Any other cultures you have observed or learned about your organizations? We'll see the different forms of the culture. So this session is all about talking about how the culture fits into the context of the DevOps. We'll try to address that piece. And what is DevOps culture and what enterprises should do to adopt it. These are the two important aspects we are going to learn from this particular session, and that will be the key takeaways as we move forward. How many of you have seen this model? Can anyone raise hands? Excellent. I have one hand coming up. This is one of beautiful model provided by the Snyder, where he illustrates the different forms of the organization culture in the 4 different quadrants. You have seen in the last session of Vijay and Anil, we're trying to talk about the org culture into the 4 important elements: collaboration, control, cultivation, and competence. Good that they have not got into the depth of it, otherwise they would kill my presentation to an extent. Well, now you see this particular Snyder model, it's very well defined and designed. So culture is all about how do we need, what do you do the things to make the success happen. Now there are 4 different forms of organizations today exist. Now when you're trying to talk about collaboration culture, it's all about working together. The control culture completely encompasses with the kind of a system controls, more towards a system orientation. And competence culture is more about the software craftsmanship, where you try to learn the things and develop the coding skills of the different developers and move forward based on the kind of a possibilities you see. The cultivation culture is more to learn and grow together. These are the 4 important cultures which are divided into the 2 horizontal axis, which is a people-oriented to the company-oriented, and the vertical axis you see from the reality, the actual things which are happening on the ground to the possibility-oriented. So now, one need to understand when you're trying to evaluate your culture, where actually your organization fitting in. If you try to self-introspect and understand your own organizations, where actually they are fitting in, you will be able to appreciate whether we are really doing the DevOps or not. If you're trying to take control culture, they are more compatible with the collaboration and competence, but it's quite opposite to the cultivation culture, where control says more about the systems, where the Kanban fits into the context, while the cultivation is more towards learning and growing, which is completely opposite. Similarly, collaboration and the competence are quite opposite to each other. Now, if you're trying to tell, we have spoken more about agile in some of the sessions. Collaboration and cultivation, these 2 important cultures embraces agile, while control embraced by the Kanban kind of a philosophy. Competence is more embraced by the software craftsman kind of a philosophy. These cultures helps you to understand the fitment and where you are trying to stand. That answers the overall DevOps culture to an extent?
Yeah. Thank you, Bala. You defined the cultures. Now tell me how I can define the organization. What are the parameters I can define whether my organization in a particular culture or not?
Good. So if now you understood this particular cultures, it's important that you try to define this particular culture types. This particular information has been derived from the DevOps survey report of 2014. Some of you might have seen a study. So there are 3 different types of cultures which a DevOps survey was trying to refer. The kind of a pathological, the power-oriented organizations which are normally have the people who are trying to develop the codes and in silos and release that particular code and throw it to the test team to integrate, do the kind of a quality checks and then release. This kind of a stuff very much observed in some of the organizations who are following the kind of a waterfall model. So there is a lot of delay in the kind of a releases, a lot of innovation is lacking there. Where when you're moving into the rule-oriented or bureaucratic organizations, you try to see that these organizations are having a discipline with a predictable outcomes of your releases. Now, when you're trying to say that have a predictable outcome, they follow particular policies and say you need to deliver these things. And they are against the number of releases you want to release in a quarter. So they have a predefined feature sets. They want to go with that and achieve that objective. While in the generative organizations, you see they are very much performance-oriented, where build, test, and operations team work together. The discipline is to encompass the thoughts, encompass the ideas, and also to reduce the cost and minimize the risk as much as possible. They continuously learn, and if the failure is done, it's a kind of a mistake they may have committed, but it's a kind of a learning process, and they try to take that particular learning to kind of bridge the gaps and innovate continuously to optimize their processes, optimize their functions. If you're trying to say that I want to achieve the DevOps in my organization, implement the philosophy into my organization, it's a generative kind of a culture or a performance-oriented organization matters a lot. That would take you to apply DevOps principles, DevOps philosophy to achieve success.
Okay, great. So now you define the organization culture. So how can I measure the maturity of my organization culture?
Fantastic. So if you want to measure the organization cultures, I have defined this as a pet slide of mine. I have defined into the 5 different stages where you can see the different organization cultures matters, and the speed of innovation also matters a lot. When you're trying to say that I'm working for an organization, first ask, does a culture exist? Any of this quadrant fits in, or partially something fits in. If there is no culture exist, you are in a stage 1. If you see there is a culture of process repeatability, there is a process you have defined and you are able to execute the process continuously and able to deliver the results, then you are moving on to the stage 2. And if you see there is a culture where the dev team goes into the ops meetings and the ops teams comes and sits into the dev meetings, there is a culture of participation, you are moving into the stage 3. And continuously, if you are able to build, monitor, and learn from the outcomes and help business to decide the decision-making capabilities through the various forms of dashboards in a very transparent way, then you are going into the stage 4. And if you are effectively spending more time in the innovation aspects, that's a culture of innovation you are trying to bring in, then I would say you are in the stage 5. That is the ultimate stage where you want to really get in. Now, I've seen in some of the organizations like HP and Microsoft, the culture of innovation has been given a lot of importance, where people spend more time in the innovation rather than on the building of development and releasing the features. The innovation makes a big difference. In one of the statistics have observed that the HP LaserJet firm, I think some of you might have referred, in 2008, they were spending only 5% of time in the innovation. But with the adoption of the DevOps and making the devs and ops teams and test teams to work together, they were able to reduce that particular integration time and everything through the automation and improve the time spent on the innovation to 5% to the 40%. And thereby, they're able to reduce the cost by 40% and reduce the innovation, increase the innovation by 8 times. That is phenomenal, what you could have seen there as part of the enterprise.
Well, you defined the organizational level, but as a project member, I would like more on how can I implement, what are the concepts I can take into a project level aspects?
A very good question when you're trying to look in from the project level. Now, you need to know that DevOps is a need of the hour. We have seen, Sujata was referring in the beginning, while talking of the lean development using the mobile. DevOps definitely is a need of the hour. People need to change, and the culture need to be applied. If you want to bring that kind of change, the projects are the place where you need to look at. You need to have a team groups which are encompassed with 8 to 12 people member teams who are focusing together with the development, test, and operations ability. Their team rooms are open rooms where you have the ability to exchange ideas, exchange needs, and go for the development and crack the things and ship the product in a quick manner. And these people will have a vision of 18 months. What is the vision I want to achieve within the 18 months? With a major releases coming out in the 6 months, and 3 months sprint planning they try to do ahead of time, where each sprint is all about 3 weeks. Now, these numbers could vary from the teams to team, but this is one of the thumb rule of the practices which are followed in some of the major organizations. Once this particular stuff is done within the team groups, they are the people who continuously try to share and celebrate the milestones when they achieve certain objectives. Whether you complete the sprints, whether you complete any particular milestone, they send out a sprint mail, celebrate it, so that kind of a team gets energized to drive the things. And further to that, there are a lot of DevOps principles or deployment principles one need to be aware of. I've seen in some of the questions in some of the session about multiple branches versus single branch. One of the best practice I have observed is maintain a single branch if there is a higher discipline in your organization of developing the code with a feature flag pattern. What does that pattern does? It will ensure that all the code you are trying to develop are shipped into the production by controlling the feature flags, by turning off the features or turning on the features and allowing you the dark launches at a periodic intervals. That way you are trying to be more agile in releasing your stuff, but if you're trying to follow that particular factor, you need to have a discipline within your development team, otherwise it is not possible. So that is a key factor for you to decide whether you need to have a single branch or multiple branches. If discipline does not exist, go for the multiple branches. If it exists, go for single branch, so that you can experiment and add incremental value as you move forward. The fifth element is in the live culture principle. So you need to see that always the site is up. You need to ensure there is a weekly and a monthly periodic reviews happens. Any downtime and outages will ensure that it comes back to the backlog items where you need to try to take care of it. Further to that, a project team need to take the business outcomes into the considerations. DevOps always says, business comes first, IT comes second. So all the metrics which are needed for the business, you need to monitor, build that kind of stuff, and continuously learn from that. So that learning aspect allows the business to take the quick decisions and roll out the features what is important for the marketplace and capitalize on that. However, you also need to see from the operations angle, from the dev angle, a lot of telemetry gathering need to be done. So you are gathering everything, monitoring everything, and you are trying to find out the root cause for every aspect what is causing the outages or the issues, so that you can effectively drive the things to a great extent. Over and above, you need to see there is a flow of value happens for reducing the waste and increasing the transparency so that you can reduce the technical debt at a faster rate. So every project, when they embrace this kind of a overall patterns and drive the culture change like continuous integration, continuous validation, continuous delivery, and continuous feedback, that would ensure that you are able to achieve success and apply DevOps philosophy within that particular project execution. That makes a big difference. Now, I would like to ask you right now, can you take this particular project principles and show us a kind of what you can do with a demo of Microsoft TFS and Visual Studio Online? So Ambily would try to provide you that kind of a perspective, how the dev and ops can work together and bring out that implementation in reality.
So we understood the DevOps concepts in the past 2 days discussions and also the cultural aspects from Bala right now. Now what I am talking to talk is from a project perspective. When we take a project, the DevOps means the development teams and the operational teams work together. If you see in the slides, the development team will be doing the development work, validate, and build. Till that point, the dev team is involved, and the operation teams will be doing the deployment, monitoring the stability of the production environment. If there is any kind of issues, identify, report back to the dev team to mitigate in the next cycle. So in a DevOps concepts, both the teams are involved in the build and deployment. It's not the responsibility only of the development team or the ops teams. There is no distinction between these two teams. And also the operation teams, the traditional operation team may be just monitoring and reporting the bugs back to the dev team. But in a Microsoft Stack implementation perspective, the operation team needs to involve more on the development activities, not only monitor and identify the bugs, he needs to provide the suitable artifacts like what are the event logs, how the development team can quickly fix that bugs into the next release cycle. So that kind of analysis is also need to be taken care by the ops teams. So before coming to any tools and anything, we will understand the different activities performed by the different teams. So what are the aspects we need to consider? When it's coming to a development team, they will be dealing with the coding of different product backlog items. It may be the features, requirements, or the bugs reported by the ops team. They will do the coding. Once you see a coding aspect, mainly we have the IDE for the doing the coding and the version control for collaboration between the team members. Apart from that, we may do some kind of code analysis to ensure that the code, whatever written, is of high quality and it's a standardized way. After that, he will do a unit testing. When comes to a unit testing, most of the time we will automate the unit testing using any of the platforms. It may be a testing environment altogether, a test-based load runner or the IBM tool or any kind of tool, or the built-in Visual Studio tools for the unit testing aspects. Then he built the things. Once you do the building, there are a lot of integrations can happen. You can ensure that the build I think one of the sessions they discussed about the developer done the check-in and it went to the server, next build is failed due to a incorrect code checking. The impact analysis is not done properly. But we need to have a setup or we need to have a gateway that prevents the checking of any kind of build issues. If the code is not able to build properly, it should not go to the source control. It should not be part of your version control system. Along with that one, in the build time, we may be interested in running some kind of unit test script, understand how much code coverage is done as part of my unit test, whether it's above 80% or below 80%. If it is below 80%, don't deploy to the test environment because the code coverage is not done. The unit test scripts are not proper yet to validate or mark it as a testable piece of delivery. Again, in the build, sometimes we'll do a architecture validation, whether the layers are properly aligned, whether there is a call from the UI directly to the database layer, how you can, in a huge project, you may not be able to do that level of code review. And again, it's agility coming. Every 2 weeks, you are going to deliver. So one person sit and understand the dependency between the different layers. It may not be possible. So as part of build, we may need to integrate that layering approach or the validation of your architecture aspects. Then next is the deployment. Deployment to a QA environment. Once it's deployed, I need to run some set of test cases. It may be the build verification test cases or the regression test cases. And also if it failed, it needs to go back. A rollback plan needs to be there. Then go for the validation. A QA team will do the automation of test scripts. Then they need a facility to report the bug back or the defects back with proper information. And next, the production deployment where the ops team needs to have a monitoring capability, how quickly they can monitor and now identify the bugs in the production environment, reports back to the dev team. So all these different activities we are doing as part of DevOps concepts. Now for identifying a tool, a common tool for implementing all these aspects, how we will be able to identify, or we need to have coding one tool, build another tool, deployment another tool, then how the collaboration will be there, how the traceability aspects will be there. Along with this, we may have more information from each of the things like build, deployment, testing, or the monitoring. The bugs needs to report back to the product backlog. If it is controlled by two different tools, integration bug is a main headache, and you need to do the proper integration to flow the information from one tool to the other tool. Apart from this, we may be interested more on the reporting, different kind of dashboards that will support your developers, testers, or project management. And again, you may look for a tool. A unified tool means it should be extensible. I may have some script, I may have some standardized script already I am using that needs to be plugged to my tool. Then only that tool will be useful for me. And also integration with other things. I may not be interested in the tool's capability on the unit testing or the test script generation. I have already the IBM rational rows or some testing tool with me. I need to integrate that things. Also the accessibility. I need to access it instead of installing the tool in each and every machine. I need to access it through a web browser or even from a mobile device. I need to get the information quick and fast. And also cloud enablement. how quickly I can enable the cloud. If everyone is moving to cloud and mobility, the tool, whether it support the cloud enablement in the terms of the tool deployment as well as the deployment of my application to the cloud. And the customization, I may need to control my tool from my existing application. For example, I have a SharePoint application. All my dashboards needs to come in my SharePoint or the enterprise ERP system, where I need to push some data from that system to my tool. And also the collaboration aspects of it. Apart from this, we have the collaboration, project management, or the team rooms, or the continuous feedback, the communication with stakeholders. Can I have a single tool which can help me implementing all these aspects? From a Microsoft stack point of view, I'm from a Microsoft technology stack, so I suggest there is a Team Foundation Server, TFS, or if you are more interested in Visual Studio, go for the Visual Studio Online, more interested in cloud-based. It's a Visual Studio Online is nothing but TFS Online, which is a SaaS model provided by Microsoft. They will manage the TFS in the cloud. You will get all the update, everything will be taken care by. No need to worry about the performance or your version control or any of these systems. It will be taken care by the MS. Either on-premise, if your data is so secure and you want the full control, lot of customization needs, reporting needs, go for an on-premise version of TFS, or if you want a SaaS-based solution, on-demand based solution, then go for a Visual Studio Online base. And another way is a cloud-hosted VM where you can use the TFS server.
So do you think this is more suitable for the Microsoft stack only, or it is suitable for the other open source stacks?
As of now, we have implemented for the Microsoft stack as well as Java-based applications. And we have integrated, when you say Microsoft stack, now it's not a single stack. If I take a ASP.NET application, it's not just ASP.NET. It will be connected to different JavaScript frameworks like Angular, Knockout, or Node, any kind of JavaScript frameworks. So you have the feature extensibility in the TFS, which support you to connect to the other frameworks like JavaScript means for building and packaging, you may need Grand and Gulf tools. You can integrate with that. And Jasmine or Karma frameworks, that also can be integrated.
Well, Git
TFS
can be integrated.
Is having a lot of customization.
Git can be integrated if required.
Yeah, Git is already integrated with TFS. So that's the next one I am talking about. See, TFS and VSO, it's not mandatory that you need to use the NDR stack as TFS. It's all loosely coupled. You go for TFS only for version control, okay, you can go for that. Or you keep your source code in GitHub and connect to the TFS for only the work item tracking. Or your project management, just project management only in the TFS and connect to the SharePoint for the other aspects. All the informations like the version control, build, release, everything is loosely coupled. You can use or integrate with any other third-party tools. And along with the TFS 2013, the, Microsoft released the release management that helped the complete DevOps implementation. Till 2013, release management is with another vendor in cycle. So we have only ALM capability with TFS till continuous integration. Then from 2013 version onwards, we have the release management, which will help you to the release cycle of the things. And for the monitoring purpose, we use application insight that can monitor your servers as well as your application. It will give the nice graphical information per minute or per 10 minutes time, how many users are accessing. The real-time data can be tracked into a dashboard format. The user count or the system usage, different resource usage, everything is handled by application insight. And InDelete is the tool we use as a developer, we use for the historical debugging purpose. But InDelete is released a small tool which can be installed in a production system for tracking the production issue. If you feel there is a production issue which is not replicated in your dev environment, run the InDelete trace, which will capture your environment as well as the stack traces,
And the line of
everything
code.
in the dev is production environment. You just pass the trace file to the developer, open it, it will iterate the same steps, and you can find quickly where the issue, what area the issue. There is no more node repro issues.
Good. In the interest of the time, we are trying to skip the demo, but I'm trying to bring out the 7 habits of the DevOps culture one need to be aware of. This is a kind of a plethora of the stack what Ambily need to provide. Can you move to the summing it up? So this is coming from the Forrester report. I feel that we need to, you all need to be aware of what is this 7 habits and which is driving the DevOps cultural habits. Now, first and foremost important thing is that you need to establish a trust and transparency across the development and operations team, which is needed. And that can be enabled only when you're trying to bring in the culture of participation together. And you need to see everything from the business outcomes perspective, from the customer side, so that you will be able to achieve what the customer goals are. And you need to completely streamline your application delivery pipeline from the integration, from the requirements to the deployment to the monitoring. Everything need to be streamlined. And always focus on loosely coupled service orientation architecture so that you have an ability to plug in and plug out at the need. And whenever the people come out and embrace the change by bringing out the simplicity and reliability into the system, always reward them. That would encourage them to be more innovative and bring out a lot of innovation to the entire game change what you're trying to bring in within the organization culture or within the project culture. Further, it's important that you need to continuously adopt and learn from the customer experience data so that you can bring out the feature flags changes as per the demand and the need. Nevertheless, culture of participation is very, very important within the organizations and the projects so that development and operations teams can work together to create the flow of value, reduce the waste, increase the transparency, and drive the value within the organization. With that, we try to close this particular session. I know that we are in between your lunch, but if you have any questions, we'll be glad to take it up, or else during the lunchtime we can connect.
Any questions? Okay, we have one question. So,
Sure.
Mike, there.
My name is Chakra, Spine. The level of automation on the development and testing side is focused more, whereas the automation in the operations is not that much focused. Intentionally automating even the operations, that focus was not, or maybe there is, but maybe I did not get it.
So there is definitely a focus. Now, what Ambily was trying to bring out is about the application insights, where in the production, what you are trying to bring in, there are tools which can help you to monitor. Now, we have seen a lot of tools available which helps you to automate your operation aspects, not only to deploy the things, also monitor the behavior of your applications, monitor the behavior of your systems, so that you can have a complete dashboard, how the servers are behaving or the applications are behaving under different conditions of the load. So that is very critical because that is what provides you the feedback. Right. As part of the DevOps philosophy, continuous feedback is very important for you to learn from the systems and make the decisions to change or release the features accordingly. So it's part of the entire DevOps lifecycle when you're trying to talk about. There are tools in the market available. When you're talking about the TFS, yes, they do have application insights and operational insights, which gives you a completely automated behavior.
Right. I was more in terms of building intelligence into the application, which can roll back defects back into the development cycle. That was something that I was asking.
Oh, about. If you are trying to, that's what Ambily was referring, right? When you are trying to see there is any kind of a bugs which has happened into the production, you try to gather the telemetry metrics, the InDelete trace, all these things, and provide it back to the developer to fix the bug very fast. So that is what the automation is all about. See, operations team is helping developers to fix the bugs rather than saying there is a bug, you go and discover. So they are trying to help each other, and development team is trying to provide the automated scripts so the deployment can be faster. So that's how you try to embrace the change and bring the culture of participation together to make the things happen faster. Any other questions? Great. Have a great lunch. Thank you.
Before that, I would like to request Mr. Saravana from Horizons to kindly come on stage, present